Hi everybody, I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all are having a great day today. If you're new here, I want to welcome you to School of Scarlett, the School of Unconditional Love. I'm so happy to have everyone here today. And so today we're going to be talking about a very personal journey. I'm going to be sharing with you the death of oneself and how that really happens in my description of it, which is very similar to a lot of people's description of it, but it could be different for each person. And this is more of an energetic sharing. A lot of times when I share things that are personal stories, they may not be the same story that you are experiencing. It could be something very different. But the essence of it is going to feel the same because we are all experiencing this human journey. And this human journey leads to this divine union, which is a seamless union between the personal self that you think is you and the divine, which has always been there. It's a merging and a seamless union of both. And so this happens in a very painful way. A lot of people call it depression. A lot of people call it the dark night of the soul. And so you may have heard either one. And I've recently made a video around depression, describing a bit of what I'm talking about as the prior feeling you get to this stage of awakening of the ego death or the death of the self. And so if you're interested in looking at that video, I will go ahead and link it down below and in the comments so that you can go back and watch that. But I will be describing some of that in this because the death is basically seamless with that depression, with that dark night of the soul. It is part of that. And you may have gotten some of that from that video. But today I'm going to express and describe the actual death of the self and what that is like. So we have to look at this not from the moment that it happens, but everything prior to it. So this does look like a linear journey in a sense, and lots of people will report it the same way. So it does seem to be a linear journey. Of course, everything's just happening and it's all seen through once you've had this ego death. But for the purposes of this discussion, it's important to describe the steps. It's important to be open, raw, and honest about what happened in those steps. Because what happens a lot of times is with speakers and teachers of this subject, once they have the awakening, all of this is seen through. And it's not wanted to be talked about much because it's seen so illusory and so insignificant and really something that should have never been given so much attention. But it is a process, it is a journey that you have to go through. And it's not a very pleasant journey. It's a very painful journey. It's a very excruciating journey. It's a death. And this is the death, the ultimate death. There is no death of the self where something tragic happens. This is the death. We have to allow death. And so we will explain this here in this video. So death is something that ends something. What you were, that personal self, whoever you thought you were, is going to end. And I don't just mean in some sense that, some poetic sense. No, it's literally going to end. You will not have access to that other self anymore. You can have memories of that other self. You can remember the journey, but you can never go back and be that self. This is a total dropping of that self. It's not something that you consciously do. It's just part of the process. Did I know that this would happen to me? Did I know what any of this was, even what the dark night of the soul was? No, I had never heard of any of this stuff. And the things that I speak of and do now, I would have never in my wildest dreams imagined it, nor would I have chosen it. Knowing what I know now, it's just part of the journey and it's what's happening. So you completely accept it as it is, and it's beautiful. But the personal self can't see past its personal self. It can't imagine itself living without this sense of self. It can't imagine what it is to become, which is why the rising of fear happens. This is going to be a journey of all of your fears coming up to the surface. And that is why I say it's going to be a very painful, very excruciating journey. And so this is what's going to begin to happen. All your fears will come up so that you can face them and you can go through them and see how false they really were. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it is very scary and that you will go through panic. You will go through depression. You will go through sleepless nights. You will go through health issues that doctors can't even figure out what it is, because this is not an illness. This is not a mental illness. This is not a physical illness. This is your spiritual divine self coming in. It's always been there. But if you want to imagine that one self is dropping and the other one is coming in, that's what it feels like. But what's happening is really you're releasing everything that wasn't you. And then all that remains is the divine self. So this is a process that has to kind of be run through. It has to go through all those fears. It has to experience all of that. And you have to realize that this is just an experience you're going through. This isn't all. This isn't everything. This isn't going to be the rest of your life. This is an experience. And for some people, it could last a few weeks. For some people, it could last months. For some people, it could last years. But you're right there. You're right there, right before the awakening. There is different stages. There is a stage where you're just consuming, taking. I like to call this more of like a caterpillar stage, where, the caterpillar, you can think of the book, The Hungry Hungry Caterpillar. It would eat everything, it'd eat all the leaves, all, watermelon, ice cream, all these different things, and it would get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it was in this process of consuming and taking and wanting and trying to make itself big and grand on its own. Now, we are past that stage when you're in the state of depression, when you're in the state of fears bubbling up, when you're in the state of this really dark fight. And I also like to kind of say it's similar to what you would think of. You're fighting basically like the devil, although the devil is just also just another mindset. It is fear. It's your 40 days in the desert, 40 days and nights in the desert. It is going to be rough, very rough. And you're not going to want to be involved in the outside world. And when people ask you, what do you want to do in life? Uh, what do you like? What, you lose all interests. You don't care about life anymore. You don't care about interests. You don't care about goals. You don't care about family. You don't care about yourself. And when you get to this state, it becomes like the whole world is gone, because you yourself will begin to retreat more into what I call a cocoon, into yourself. And in that cocoon, you will begin to shed all parts of you, just like the caterpillar begins to shed its legs, its skin, its colors, everything. You will also begin to shed all these parts of you. And you can imagine that's not an easy thing. It's very painful to have to shed that from you. What you thought you were, what you thought you loved, what you thought was everything, you realize was nothing but a lie. And it's painful because you also then retreat inside and realize you did this. No one else did this. You allowed a lot of these things to go on. Yes, you were programmed. Yes, you were conditioned. But living that life and continuing to live day by day a lie, something that was not you, is very painful, until it's realized you really aren't what you think you are. You aren't that caterpillar. You look in that cocoon and you realize, I'm not a caterpillar. I'm not a caterpillar. And so you have this grand realization that you weren't what you thought you were at all. And your whole world is flipped upside down. And it's flipped upside down in a way that it's literally flipped. Your days become your nights. You're no longer sleeping at night. You're awake at night. Where you used to engage with people, you no longer engage with people. Where you used to have interest for things, you no longer have interest for things. You may gravitate more towards just plain spirituality. That's all that can hold your interest at this point, because there's nothing of this world that matters anymore. that caterpillar is no more, and all the caterpillar things are gone. You're in a cocoon, you're in darkness. You've shed all parts of you and you don't know what you are. This is where you die, in that cocoon. You're no longer yourself. You can't even recognize yourself. You don't even know how you got where you got. It becomes a complete confusion within the mind. The body's out of whack. You're experiencing stomach aches, headaches, not sleeping, all of these things. And when you do sleep, your dreams are filled with all kinds of fights and battles. What's happening is all of those fears are coming up. They're coming up in the physical sense, and they're coming up in your dreams in the spiritual sense. What's happening is there's a big battle in the kingdom. There is a kingdom within your heart. There is a kingdom in there, and there's treasure, and it is amazing, and it is who you truly are. But within that kingdom right now, there is a fight. There's a battle going on. You could see it as a big, big war. There's a war of the old self, the personal self, the basically false self, because it never has been. It's just an idea. Fighting with the true self, which is just the will, the capital W will, which is the divine. And it's fighting in there. What's fighting is this personal self is trying to control, trying to keep on, trying to hold on to its false stories. So it's going to spew out all of these stories, all of these horrible thoughts, all these horrible inner voices. It can become very dark to where the personal self surrenders and no longer wants to continue on in this life. And it doesn't physically die. It doesn't physically take those steps. This is a spiritual battle. And in that spiritual battle, that personal self realizes it has no power at all over this will, what is, what has always been, what is infinite, what is eternal. And when it realizes that, it merges with its divine self, and it becomes a seamless union between the so-called thought of personal self and the divine self. They've always been together, but they've been in conflict because the personal self has been trying to run the show. When that personal self literally dies, it merges with the divine self. And all those parts of it that were not what it was, not what the divine self was, are dead. And what you'll come to find out is that what really died is yourself. Everything you thought you were is no more. It makes no sense. It doesn't matter. It's no more. You're not hanging on to any bit of it. Things may remain and may still bubble up as fears to be cleared, but who that self was is gone. You have merged with the divine, and now you are just taking step by step by step as it guides your way. This new way is a mystery. You don't know what will happen. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I would have any of these thoughts or even be speaking about something like this, I would have told you you're nuts. And I would have probably been offended and angry about it because I was firm in my beliefs and I was firm in what I believed to be true. And I thought that that was the way. But little did I know, I was just living out and adopting other people's beliefs until the moment that I went through my own direct experiences. So you can listen to these videos, or you can listen to other people share their experiences with you, or you can join a religious community and learn their practices. And that's all well and good. But until you have your own direct experience, you will not experience this. And so the direct experience is this very painful time. And I know that a lot of you are in this time. I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of them report these things. You're right there in that space of the personal self dying. That is the process. There is a process to it. It appears, and some people say it spontaneously happened. Yes, these things spontaneously happen all of a sudden, and it seems that it just happened in that moment because all there is this moment. And when we can capture that, and when we've had this awakening, all there is this moment. So that's why it's verbally conveyed that way. But there is a process. There is things that happen. There is patterns we can see. And there is experiences and feelings that we all go through for the personal self to fall away. It's not something that we're hanging on to and making happen. It's something that has just happened, that life has become so hard and dense, and it has been so hard to keep up this lie that the personal self can't do it anymore. And that's when it becomes unstable. That's when it becomes depression. That's when it starts to not see the point of things anymore. That's part of the breaking. That's the door opening. That's the light shining through that, hey, you don't need to do this. You don't need to work this hard at a lie. The brain wants you to believe that it has a plan, that it has the best plan, that it knows everything, that it's got all the knowledge that it's ever accumulated, and that's going to take you on this path that is the ultimate path, and that you're going to be very successful. And in turn, people will love you. Drop that. We're not looking for anybody else's love anymore. When you're in this dark night of the soul, when you're in this depression, you will realize this. It doesn't matter anymore if people leave you. It doesn't matter anymore who loves you, who doesn't show you love, who accepts you, who doesn't accept you. You drop all those people. And if they are there and they follow with you and they are part of your journey later on, then great. But you see it as what it is. And you release every relationship, every attachment, because it's so painful now. It's just so painful to hold on to anything. It's a complete surrender of the self. It's a death of the self. You let go of all your beliefs. Everything goes away. Because in all those beliefs and all of those things you were holding on to was pain, was lies. There were other reasons you were doing those things. You were doing those things to survive, to be loved, to be accepted, to be liked. But do you like yourself? Do you love yourself? How can you love yourself when you're lying about who you are? How can you like yourself when you aren't expressing your truth? That conflict, this is all conflict, that conflict becomes so painful that you break. And as you break, that opening opens. And what it is really is your heart is now open. And when your heart becomes open, you're going to realize things that you had never realized. The truth will be revealed of your whole life, of every decision you made. You will now see it clearly for what happened. You'll see how you made those decisions, and you'll forgive yourself and you'll give yourself grace, because you'll see how you were doing the best that you could in those moments. And although they seem like mistakes, you didn't know any better. You didn't have this awakening. You didn't have this new perspective. You were only trying to survive. You can think of yourself as a small child, just trying to survive. How can you blame that small child for just trying to survive? So we can love ourselves. We can forgive ourselves in those moments and release it. And as we do that, our heart remains open. And what is in the center of our heart is that treasure. You're now in the kingdom of God. You're in the kingdom. And in that center is everything. It's this energy of love that transmutes and changes everything. So everything that has gone wrong, that you haven't liked about yourself, that you've held, guilt over, shame over, all of these things will be washed with love, and they'll be transmuted back into love, and you can see it, and you can love yourself for having gone through it and being strong enough to have gone through it to get to where you are now. It's just part of the journey that unfolds, but these are these sort of thoughts and feelings that come up, and I really want to describe it in a way that you will understand, because you may be going through this and then being hard on yourself by thinking, oh, I should be in bliss, I should be in love, I should be expressing um, gratefulness, all of these things that I talk about. We're talking about something real here now. This is the portion before awakening. So a lot of speakers and teachers will speak on love because they've gone through it. And when you go through it, it's almost like a forgetting of everything else that happened. But we're tapping into this. Why are we tapping into this? Because this is part of the journey. And it's important for me to express it to you so that you know that there is this stage, this feeling of depression, of total surrender, of hate towards oneself, of horrible things that come up, and experiences and people leaving us and people kicking us even when we're already down. You will have this. While you're going through this dark night of the soul, you're already going to be down. Your energy is going to be down. You're not going to be sleeping well. Your health is going to be feeling like it's suffering, because a lot of things are being released. It's just like a releasing. And in that, you're going to have two kinds of people. You're going to have people that are helpful and loving, and those people will be good for you and amazing as well. And then there's going to be people that are going to be challenging, difficult, and they're going to seem like they're kicking you when you're already down. They're going to make it a lot harder for you. But don't get angry, don't get upset. This is a process of allowing everything. The second kind of person, the one that's there kicking you, making you even feel worse, really causing you problems in this time, they're actually teaching you something. They're helping you to release and really let go of that personal self and allow the death to go through. So either one of those two sorts of people will help you along this journey. So sometimes we get upset when we're in this dark night of the soul and it seems that everything's going wrong when we're, just simply trying to align with our true selves, and we don't understand this because there's more to be released. And these appearances, these people that are coming in, are helping you to do so. Everything outside of yourself is just part of you. It's a teacher. It has some sort of intelligence and knowledge to bring. We don't see it that way until we've passed the point of that situation. Then we look back and we realize, oh, that was actually a good thing that happened. And those things that we're talking about are some of the worst, most horrendous things we don't even wish would happen to anybody. But they are our teachers, and we learn that with time. We learn that, wisdom and life teaches us that. And so when you're going through this stuff, just having the mindset and keeping the mindset that all of this is really just happening for you to really be who you really are. This is a gift. So I know if you're in this stage of the dark night of the soul, of depression, of panic, of feeling like you're dying, of feeling like maybe even you're having a heart attack or there's something seriously wrong, this is part of the process. It's very uncomfortable. But what's happening here is that you will notice that parts of you are dying. If you really get honest with yourself and look within, you're starting to release certain family members. You're starting to release certain beliefs. These things are starting to end. You may be leaving a certain job. You may be leaving a certain town. You may be changing something in your routine. There is things that are falling away. And what is happening is the divine self, that opening that you have, that's opening up, is pushing through. You will not know what your new self will really look like. You won't really know what your new self will be like. But you can trust and you can feel supported in knowing that the new self that's going to arise is going to be 100% you. You're not going to feel internally conflicted. The conflict will stop. You'll have peace. You'll have unsurpassing peace. You'll have love. You'll have joy in every circumstance. You won't be shaken because you've been through it all. You've been that caterpillar. You've consumed, wanted, desired, hoarded, kept for yourself, taken so much, thinking that that's what you needed for others to love you. And you've died to yourself. You've went into the cocoon. You've lost literally all parts of yourself and have gone into total darkness, depravity. Could only really look at yourself and really went really deep within yourself to find all of those things you were or thought you were are not you. And what you are is just love. It can't be defined, it can't be explained, but it feels right. And so now you follow your heart, you follow love, and along the way you find more and more of yourself. And the journey opens more and more doors and more of life. And then that's where you come out of that depression and the butterfly emerges. You are made completely anew. You turn around as a butterfly and look at a caterpillar. You don't even resonate with it. You don't even recognize it. You can't ever go back to it. Now that you're a butterfly, there is no turning back. There is no turning back to the cocoon. There is no turning back to the caterpillar. You have emerged anew. You have wings now. You can fly above all and you can see all. Your eyesight is clear and you are just flowing with love. Love has now become your teacher. Where before, as a caterpillar and as the caterpillar within the cocoon, you relied on fear a lot as your teacher. You needed fear to teach you things. But you have overcome fear. And now love is your teacher. And as you follow your heart, you learn more and more about yourself, more and more about others, more and more about the universe. And all of that, you realize, is all of you. And so you love yourself more and more. And this love story goes on for infinity. So I hope that this has opened a little bit more of your perspective of what it really means to die to the self. And if this resonates with you, I hope that you share this video with others so that others can understand this journey a little more, because it can be quite difficult in the stage of the dark night of the soul. But you've always been the greatest, grandest, most beautiful thing on this earth, which is what animates everything. You are consciousness. You aren't even the butterfly. You'll come to a certain point in your life, you'll also have another realization that you are not even the butterfly. And that will awaken everything for you. But just know that all of this is already within you, and no one can do this but you. Allow yourself to go through this process. You are safe, you are loved, and you are more than capable of going through this. You are stronger than you believe. Thank you so much for watching. I love y'all infinitely.